has dialed in on us from out of town and is listening and will be a participant in the meeting telephonically. Mr. Attorney, that is allowable under our rules and ordinances. Okay, good deal. Well, then with that said, we'll start. Mr. Vice Chair, would you like to introduce our invocation?
Absolutely. I've got my good friend Gene Strickland with us today. Gene used to be with Leon County Sheriff's Department. He now does ministry for the Leon County Sheriff's Department, specifically with the families and the deputies who work out at the jail, working with Sheriff McNeil. So, Gene, if you don't mind coming up, that'd be great.
Let us pray. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, we thank you for those you have raised up to lead and serve the people of Leon County. Pour out your spirit of wisdom and clarity on our county commissioners so that they may accomplish all that is before them. May each of them faithfully serve in their office to promote the well-being of all people. Make them one in purpose and in heart, so that through their good example we may be a people at peace among ourselves and a blessing to others. All this we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
Consist of 21 commissioners. They're of a volunteer basis, and they're supported by the Oasis Center for Women and Girls, Executive Director Michelle Gomez. Bringing to you your attention to the first slide. This year, the Commission established a logo. The Commission's purpose is to promote awareness to issues pertaining to women and girls and serve as an advisory role, providing input to the city and county. On page 5 of the annual report this year, we included a list of advancements impacting the status of women and girls in our community since the inception of the CSWG. The CSWG has 3 topic area committees and 1 organization and bylaw committee. The 3 topic areas are education and economic security, health and development, and violence and safety. An important key to us being successful is all the committees have done work collaborating with over 50 partners, including local and state government, private nonprofit businesses, for-profit businesses, human service agencies, the media, educational institutions, and community advocates. I'm very proud to present from the Organization and Bylaw Committee. We undertook the drafting of a 3-year strategic plan with input from commissioners from both the city and county. Their words were golden and valuable to us proceeding successfully. The strategic plan is aligned with the city and county goals and will be reviewed on a biannual basis. The new strategic framework represents a significant evolution of the Commission's work, the improvements to efficiencies, responsiveness, cohesion, and strengthens the foundation of the CSW. A key element in the strategic plan is that each year the Commission leadership will identify 1 community issue on which to focus. The 3 topic committees will work on the issue from their point of view, and it will be tied to the 4 goals that you see on the slide in front of you and the initiatives linked to the goals. Periodic reports will be provided to the city and county on the progress of the 4 strategic goals and corresponding initiatives. The Education and Economic Security Committee focused on poverty and how it relates to women in Tallahassee, Leon County. Nearly 80% of women, heads of household with children, live daily on a significant danger of being unable to meet their financial needs. To address this issue, the committee planned a Women's Economic Summit. A summit steering committee was established with a wide range of leaders. That is on page 16 of the leaders that all participated in putting the summit together of the report. The goals of this summit include creating an opportunity for elected leaders to engage in policy decisions facilitated by national experts, and for 95% of summit attendees to receive information they could use to increase economic opportunity for women in our community. We're looking forward to hopefully seeing all of you on October 30th. The invite is on the back of the annual report. Our Health and Development Committee focused on a public health crisis for which women bear a significant burden, sexually transmitted infections. Leon County is #1 in Florida and among the top 10 in the nation. The committee participated in the Stomp Out Syphilis Coalition launch with 70 other community members and will continue to partner to increase awareness. The committee members represented by CSWG participated in an expert panel with WFSU Perspective to discuss potential strategies for bringing more awareness in the community on sexually transmitted infections. The Violence and Safety Committee focused on addressing the loss of women and girls' lives by violence and sexual assault. The committee's attention was focused on restructuring the public's perception of violence against women, not as an isolated tragic event, but as one of many actions on a continuum of violence, the lesser of which often is dismissed or downplayed. The committee produced a list of tips for recognizing behaviors in the microaggression end of the continuum, which is on your slide and also included in the annual report. The committee convened several workshops and organizations and provide services to women and had workshops. They also provided and put on a workshop at the UPHS conference discussing the perceptions of violence for women and girls. It has been an honor for the CSW to serve the residents of the city of Tallahassee and Leon County. And I, lastly, but not most importantly so, bring you to the attention of the recommendations for your consideration found on page 4 of the report, so we together may continue to improve the lives of women and girls in our community.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. And looks like Commissioner Dozier.
Mr. Chair, I guess I had a question. Thank you, Gina, for the update. Going forward and working with you all on the strategic plan, I see evidence of a lot of changes, and that's fantastic. I just wanted to, the recommendations for action, this is a 2018-2019 list. Just to use that as an example, will we see those recommendations in the annual report every year? Will we see them come in a different form? I just wanted to note this because we have a list of recommendations, but we don't have any time to talk about them, and it seems like some things we've already dealt with and other things. I'm just wondering how you all are thinking about engaging city and county commissions if there are direct requests for recommendations.
Well, I know that one of our, it's in our strategic plan to provide periodic reports on where we are specifically with our committees on the issue moving forward to actually come on a periodic, not just come at the end of the year with an annual report, but to provide periodic reports. And we always welcome engagement.
So that might be the time where you're making a specific request. I mean, some of these recommendations are a specific request that county or city or both of us take action on something. So we would hear that directly from the committees?
Yes, and thank you for asking this question because it brought something else to mind. We don't have it finalized, but it's about 4 pages long, and we had it just at the last full commission meeting. It's a full action communication plan, and to do just what you're saying.
Okay,
And we'll be sharing that with you as well, the commission. And
thank you. Mr. Chair, I just wanted to draw this point out because I'm excited about the direction for the commission, but I think it will be a change from what commissioners on county and city have seen in the past from the commission. So I didn't want that to go without some comment because I know you've been looking for other ways to get into an ongoing conversation. So I think the work is great and look forward to seeing the communication plan.
yes, coming your way soon.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lindley.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate your report and a lot of ideas that come out of it. I'm sort of in the same curiosity as Commissioner Dozier, because you had some very provocative recommendations for action, including the city and county commissions setting up childcare during public hearings. I mean, some sort of big ideas and good decisions that we would have to really wrestle with. There's a list of them. So I'm curious too. I mean, we don't want just a list of good ideas and thank you very much. So there will be a time when there may be some specific proposals for the county commission and city commission, some specific ask. I see one of yours is that after the economic summit, you'll have some recommendations.
Yes.
So I guess I'm just wondering what to do with this piece of paper at the moment. which is just a
Absolutely.
list
Not
of
only
good
will there
ideas.
be, I'm sorry, you were speaking, ma'am.
Well, that's, I mean, I just was wondering what the next step is on that too, so.
Thank you for asking. And that is for us to come before you on a more regular basis and either sit individually or as a group to discuss the recommendations.
Things that you would like to see brought forward. as
Absolutely.
Agenda items for us to, okay. Thank you, yeah. That was just a logistical question, really. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Lindley, and thank you again, Gina, and all of our members from the committee for coming out this afternoon. We appreciate you being here. All right, moving on to our consent agenda at this time. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one item pulled, item number 19.
Item 19, I believe it was pulled by
Commissioner Deloge.
Commissioner Deloge. Commissioner Deloge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great report. Appreciate the input, and I think we're moving in a positive direction. With the help of Dale Allen, we've kind of gone through this and made a couple of, if we can add on some recommendations potentially, specifically, if we can talk a little bit about, in the report, a little bit more about economic development, and specifically, you know, they talk about tourism as the first state for economic development, and we've got a lot of people that are coming to our community in an effort to look at the trails that end up living here. I had a conversation just a few minutes ago. There's people that all the time come to Tallahassee for one reason and end up staying here. So that's part of the thing I'd like to have a little bit more focus on that. But then more importantly, a lot of recreational trails is a great thing. If we can go in and prioritize some of the actual connectivity, we can actually fund from a different pot. And there's the FDOT Sun Trails dollars, which is specifically for transportation-related trails. So we've got pieces and parts. So what I'd like to do is basically talk a little bit more in the report about how do we connect some of these things, and specifically when you look at it and say, if I wanted to go from Tallahassee to Thomasville, for instance, Tallahassee to Monticello, for instance, we can get from downtown Tallahassee now to St. Mark's. Then, you know, but if I look at Monticello, there's just a few gaps, and if we sit there and start to look at what would it take to fill those gaps, and how do we prioritize that and make those feasibility studies so that we know if and when we get the funding, we can kind of pull that off. But what I'd like to do is just basically raise the level of awareness in the report a little bit about some of the connectivity from a transportation standpoint, because the funding changes up, and get some of the feasibility reports in place. So, but I move acceptance of the report, but with those just add-ons. I don't think we're asking for.
Just as a matter of business, can I get a motion to approve the remaining consent items?
Second.
Seconded. All right, we'll approve the remaining consent items. I apologize for that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. Remaining items were approved. We do have Commissioner Dozier, I assuming Q to speak on 19.
On 19, yeah.
Right. And we also have one speaker. Would you like to hear the speaker first? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Dale Allen. Mr. Allen, your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. My name is Dale Allen, 3186 Behringer Hill Drive. Longtime advocate and champion for these connected trail systems. Good report, a lot of information in there, and some good ideas that need to be strengthened. One of them is the connection between these trails and economic development. We know from the study itself and from the communities that have connected these long-distance trails, trails are loved by residents, but when they have to get to a certain length to really bring visitors into our community. I'm asking the Commission to think more about the importance of those corridor connections because they're going to bring the greatest level of prosperity from visitors coming to our community. We have a great example right now, the St. Mark's Trail. After years of work, it's 100% connected all the way from Capitol Cascade Park to the town of St. Mark's, and ridership is up significantly on that. We're seeing for the first time visitors coming into Tallahassee from McCulloch County, not the other way around. We're only on the tip of that iceberg as we make that northern 4 miles more attractive and scenic, and we put up better signage. I think we're going to see a tremendous blossoming of tourism coming into downtown Tallahassee on that trail. We need to look at least one, if not 2 or 3 others, and the opportunities to connect that same trail in the downtown to both Havana, Monticello, and Thomasville are out there. It's all in the report. We just need to emphasize those corridors and those connections more, and we're going to see the benefits at long term in terms of increased tourism. As Commissioner Deloge said, in 2015, the Florida legislature created a new program in the FDOT called Sun Trails, Shared Use Non-Motorized. These are long-distance, regionally connected trails, and there is funding for that. We need more, as Commissioner Deloge mentioned at the CRTPA meeting, we need more trails in the pipeline. We do not have enough feasibility studies on which trails should be connected first and foremost to get the biggest bang for the buck. So those 2 recommendations are so important to get us into the next level of that. And one other thing that I would like to call the Commissioner's attention to, and on page 24 of the report, one page, there's 2 examples from Boulder, Colorado, and from Greenville, South Carolina, of how their communities have used these trails to significantly advance tourism and economic development. And both of those have connections and intersection improvements. Greenville reports on the Swamp Rabbit that given 80% of all cycling fatalities in Greenville's occurred at intersection, single most important thing Greenville did to improve bicycle safety was focus on those intersections, making sure that people not only can get to them and get through them safely, and then also underpasses, overpasses as we connect these trails together. So let's go get some more money, let's get some more trails in the pipeline, and let's get some more people coming to our beautiful city to enjoy the amazing trails that we already have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Have Commissioner Dozier and then Commissioner Minor in queue to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Deloge, thank you for pulling this item, and Dale, thanks for your comments. I actually, coming off of our CRTPA meeting yesterday that I know not everyone is on that board, I had thought to make a comment about the bike ped master plan that will be reported to the CRTPA board in November during comment time. So I was happy to see you pulled this item because I think we're thinking about this in the same way, but there's 2 different components. So I wonder if we might be able to actually ask for an agenda item to come back after the CRTPA, the master plan is reported out to CRTPA. As we heard yesterday, what we're going to see is even a cost analysis of how to connect our neighborhoods to existing bike infrastructure and pedestrian infrastructure in the community, and then what it might be, what it might cost to look at our major arteries. And so there was some low-hanging fruit, and some of the discussion yesterday was how do we coordinate on getting some of these things done with city, with some of the other projects we have. So thinking about how we implement it, how we move forward with that plan was going to be my question later, and see if we could have an item come back. Well, you've got the motion, sir.
You want to put that in the
yes.
form of a motion for us, Commissioner Deloge? Or Commissioner Dozier?
Let me add one other piece here, and then we can make a substitute, or we can add on to acceptance of the report. But your focus, good focus on regional connectivity, and we talked about this yesterday too, what money is left on the table out there that we haven't gone after yet. Suncoast Trails is a key component. I want to compliment Carrie Post for meeting with our regional, I surprised you there, Carrie, sorry, our regional tourism reps from our other counties in the last year. And I think there may be something either, I don't know if it's through TDC or through our outreach or planning council, that we could get a more strategic conversation going about those gaps and funding for those gaps. It might be in CRTPA if it's just those 4 counties, but if we want to look outside of those, I think that's something else we could look at in an agenda item of how to implement a more strategic approach to that. So that would be my suggestion. I don't know if you want that in your motion. Or
Commissioner Deloge, I was informed while we were in the midst of the discussion that after the CRTPA report, we will have something coming back in the form of an agenda item. Am I correct?
Okay. So could we amend your motion to include any ideas staff has about the regional component, how we coordinate with our counterparts, and get that into the same discussion? Okay. Thank you both. Thank you.
Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing I want to bring up that's tangentially related to this. Mayor Daley has led an initiative with Bob Lotane, Altemies Barnes at the Riley House for a Tallahistory Heritage Trail type of project. So it's not quite fully baked yet, but Carrie Post, Visit Tallahassee, and I have been in some of those meetings. Really exciting work where it might be taking existing smartphone applications and basically putting different trails in that. So you could take a civil rights heritage trail. You could take a sports trail. You know, it'd be a great way for us to increase the tourism element, which is reflected in this agenda item as well, but this is something that's related to that. So there's some really exciting work that's being done in that area with the mayor leading that effort. Just want to point that out.
All right. The administrator informs me that can be caught in the, or can be captured in the subsequent agenda item. Am I correct? All right. All right, moving on. We need to do a vote on the motion. Okay. Motion has been made by Commissioner Deloge, seconded by Commissioner Dozier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Thank you for that. At this time, we will have citizens to be heard on non-agenda items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have one speaker card in, Jeremy Block.
Good afternoon, Mr. Block. Name and address for the record, sir.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jeremy Block, 1109 East 6th Avenue in Tallahassee. I'm here to just address the Commissioners about Senate Bill 168. It was signed by our governor back in June, and I believe it affects this county greatly. The gist of it is that it is no longer advisable to declare ourselves a sanctuary city. Everybody has pretty much signed off on that component of it. But the bill was challenged, and a judge in South Florida did rule that one component of it will remain intact the way it was written. And that is the idea that if an undocumented worker is picked up for a crime in our county and held in our jail, that they will not be released to the public after the serving of their sentence, or most importantly, after placing bail, coming up with the bail money, until ICE has been given an opportunity to pick them up and transfer them to a proper detention facility on the federal level. Originally, this bill was stymied because it was originally stated that our sheriff would have to drive these individuals across a state line to deposit them in a federal facility. That part was nixed by the judge. I think that's a small plus. But I'm really anxious and actually very appalled that this is going to be taking place. It all came into effect on the 1st of October last week. I heard about it a couple of days before. It's been written up extensively in the Miami Herald, and it's just something that I wish the county commissioners, knowing that it's a state law and knowing there is a limit to your authority for these issues, to at least be aware that we are now an integral part of being an advocate and or even a deputized ICE agent at the county level here in Leon. It's not something we have to solve alone. All 67 counties are under the same law, under the same jurisdiction. Another component of it is that ICE is going to pay our sheriff's department $50 a head for any cost related to the holding of these individuals an extra 48 hours. $50 a head is very minimal in the big picture. However, I believe, and I think the attorney would back me up on this, that that would, in fact, at least formally deputize our deputies to be involved in ICE operations, and I'm just appalled with that action. Thank you very much for listening, and it's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Any other speakers at this time?
We have an additional speaker card just handed in. Virginia Smith.
Good afternoon, Ms. Smith. Name and address for the record.
Beg your pardon?
Name and address for the record.
2650 Municipal Way.
All right.
But actually, that's why I'm here. That is the Kearney Center. Again, my name is Virginia Smith. I am a new resident of Tallahassee. I had, it was coincidental with the arrival of Dorian, and I lived in South Florida. But I had it already a month before Dorian. I was living on a boat in the Anchorage before Dorian took a completely full anchorage and made it a vacant parking lot where I was the only boat out there. But anyway, I had already made plans a month before that to come up here and try to get into one of the shelters here at the Chelsea House, which has no place at the moment. Anyway, I have to say, it was the most excellent shelter of probably about 7 over decades, and I'll explain that, that I've ever seen. I tell you, my description of it is that it has a fantastic roof. It's a very clean facility. It is starting to get a little bit beat up, and I would caution about that. But anyway, it's really a treasure. Integration of services with the caseworkers and the available resources is fantastic. Healthcare, dental care, that sort of thing. Caseworkers being able to tap into whatever is available for housing for which group, it's disabled, elderly, etc. Not enough of that anywhere, as you can see that nationwide, it's a problem. Anyway, my gripe is, as a straight person who doesn't do drugs and never has, rarely drinks, lawful, helpful. I mean, in the week that I had resided there, I had volunteered like 7 times. I'm pretty seasoned. I'm 61 years old. I'm healthy. I walk to town from there a couple of times a week. And before that, jog, hiked for the past 80, since the 1980s. Okay. But very aware of the cultural, that it is, you just have, I don't know what to say, it suffer from too much diversity, or actually it's not enough diversity, because there's basically one controlling group, and it's a drug and alcohol group, and if you're not one of them, you're targeted. That shouldn't be news to anyone. However, what is news is that, or what should be very disconcerting, is that I, after having been bullied several nights in a row, took each time that complaint to the staff as per policy, found that staff member, well, the lawyer should be familiar with the term deliberate indifference. And that's what I got, was ignorance, even to the point where I was being threatened in earshot of the staff member with having my ass whipped, beat up, and a ringtone to embellish that, a whip-ass ringtone. And at that point, I took the staff decided to turn and basically chastise me. That was the pattern then. That was the pattern when I took it to other staff members. That was the pattern when I took it to the directors. Nothing at all was ever done to the bullies. And in each and every turn of complaint, the offenders were allowed to violate policy. And by having been ignored, that they took it as a signal that it was meant to be, in my opinion, to continue and ratchet up the bullying because there was nothing done to them. And they took that as a way, okay, it's okay. Even to the point where I was restricted. And then after several appeals, I found one of the security personnel who's in charge of allowing people in or out had 3 separate times after I'd been allowed to return, told I couldn't for basically invented reasons. One for having used the term.
Ms. Smith, I'll remind you, wrap up your thoughts.
My thing is basically, it's a danger to the community. It's not just a danger. I'm not the only one who's been threatened. Other people have been threatened. They brought it up directly to the staff at this weekly meeting, to the directors, who basically just show little concern, shrug their shoulders, say they'll make a note of it. Even when someone had a witness who was black say, these guys are threatening to kill this guy when the staff aren't around. Okay, so nothing's done. Meetings are, in my opinion, they're allowing this to happen. They're cultivating a criminal culture on purpose. And basically they're bringing in, by allowing open drug use, open crack smoking, open pot, they're attracting felons from other states. The word is out.
Thank you.
They're going to be spreading.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. We certainly appreciate your comments. Any other speakers on non-agenda items at this time?
That concludes the speakers.
All right, we'll move on to our regular business. Yes, sir. If you could fill out a speaker card, we can come back to you. Yeah. We'll move on and then we'll take the speaker. Sure, on point.
Sure. Since we're at this point, can he go ahead and speak and turn the speaker card after he finishes his comment?
Certainly. That will speed things along. Come on up and speak, and we'll get your card from you after you speak. How's that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'll make it quick. I honestly have never come to a meeting. I'll make it quick. My name is Dr. Emmanuel Inwang. I was told to come here. There was an event that we did. I'm originally from Miami, Florida, graduated, never left, and stayed really deep in the community here. And we were very strong in the communities in South Florida with a lot of the things that we did. When I came up here to start kind of continuing in that fashion, it's a little different, but I was really surprised. We ended up bringing, with a group of friends of ours in churches, we ended up bringing former champ Floyd Mayweather here. And it was a nightmare trying to get the right kind of support because I don't think people believed it. So they told me to make sure I come to, a county commission because we're going to be doing these things for the youth all the way to the elderly to really bring awareness for health care, particularly in diabetes and kidney failure because of how rampant and bad it's getting. So I was told to make an announcement about it and to hopefully just maybe see if I can get contact so that the next time we make attempts to do something like that, it'll be a little bit more supported and a little bit easier when we bring certain people like that that are superstars because we've noticed that they never listen to the healthcare people, but they listen to all these celebrities. So we noticed that it really works. And that was basically it. I wanted to make the comment to let that be known. I did speak to some of the family friends of Mr. Mayweather, and from what I hear, he's coming out of retirement and making more money or something like that. So there's a possibility for him to come back because the turnout wasn't as expected because nobody believed it. But when he did come, there was a huge buzz. So
If If I could interrupt you, if, Matt, could you get his information, and we will certainly do what we can under our parameters, and he'll get that information from you, and we'll be able to distribute it
Okay.
as needed.
No, that was basically it. They were like, just come to the meeting, and I was like, okay.
Well, thanks for coming.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
for getting up and speaking. We appreciate it.
Chair. Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Max.
Just to remind you, sir, Matt, sir, just to remind you, when you finish filling out that card, just hand it to the young lady right there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. All right. Mr. Administrator, moving on to our general business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item, Commissioners, we bring to you each year on your upcoming annual retreat, which will be held again this year in January, as you know. We're recommending option 1 with any other guidance that the board may have for us, and we have no speaker cards on this item.
Seeing no commissioners in queue to speak, is there a motion from the board? Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Maddox, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Administrator, next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item provides an update on 3 strategic initiatives adopted by the board at your retreat of December 2018 related to the issue of water quality. This subject is one that we place tremendous emphasis on, given its obvious importance to our environment, health, and recreational offerings, and overall quality of life in our community. One of the ways we are advancing one of those board strategic initiatives is with the launch of a website that we want to present here first today. I'm really excited about this, Commissioners, and I think you will. That's okay. I think you will see shortly why, again, we're so excited to present this to you today. This new resource, and Matt will introduce it and talk to you more about it, for our community represents, again, a significant enhancement in how we communicate and coordinate on all things water in our community, which I can tell you was not an easy undertaking. So, Commissioners, with that, I would like to introduce Matt to introduce LeonCountyWater.org, and we are happy to answer any questions that you might have on this or any other issues on this agenda item.
Matt, give us just a second. We have a little technical glitch, and we'll move on.
Not a problem, Mr. Chairman.
Did you guys color coordinate today?
Absolutely. I see we all got on that same page.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yes. Mute yourself, please.
All right, Matt.
All right, I'm going to kick it off. So I am here joined by, as you can see, Teresa Hiker and John Kranak, some of the experts behind the information that we're about to present to you on LeonCountyWater.org. The website serves, as the county administrator has said, as a one-stop shop for all things water, which is an incredibly deep topic. Going into this, one thing I'd like to bring up is that we're really excited about websites. That is certainly one thing you've known about us when we have the opportunity to present to you new communication tools. But for whatever reason, websites are especially exciting for us, and most especially this one. And Teresa's most excited about it too. And in fact, she said, you can do the presentation, Matt. But if you do the presentation, she'll let me. But she said, if you do the presentation, you have to use as many water puns as you possibly can, because that's the only way she was going to be okay with it. So, the water website makes a big splash. Let me show you.
Nice.
Yep. Perfect. So the water website, this is the open. The water website is going to be a team of people you don't see represented behind me. From tourism to sustainability to our Office of Information Technology to Parks and Recreation. The 3 folks you see here are only very much the tip of the iceberg for the amount of expertise and staff time and creativity that went into making a data-driven citizen engaging website, because we know that we can have all the data in the world, and we do, the best science, the best process, the best monitoring protocols, but we know that we need to make it engaging and timely and relevant. And back to the joke about Teresa and puns, there's some streaming video to open our website. So now, stick with me. I'm going to be your skipper on this tour, and it's not going to last 3 hours, I swear. I'm only going to take 5 to 7 minutes of your time. This website's going to be here forever going forward and will always be updated. There's nearly 100 different pages in this website, so I don't have time to show them all to you. Out of those 100 pages, there are 125 other outside clicks to FDEP, to FWC, to an acronym, you name it, we got it. Information is here for you. So let's scroll down a little bit. So as you can see, we say from the largest lake to the smallest drop, and we very much mean it, commissioners. This is your source on our most vital resource, which is water. And it demonstrates our commitment to protecting that water through good and strong policy that is holistically developed and implemented, and that engages our citizens on the topic. So you can see right here up at the top, there are 4 information buckets, which we'll get to in just a second. As you scroll down just a bit more, the front page calls out timely upcoming events like Lake Iamonia cleanup, like we would have promoted last week's water school, which happened on October 11th, which I know some folks in the room had the chance to engage with. Scrolling down just a little bit farther on the homepage before we go back up to those buckets, water-related health advisories and very important emergent information, such as fish consumption advisories, boil water notices. If ever there is anything that is of importance and public safety, there will be a ribbon put right up here on the water-related health advisories, which we're all very familiar with. We use it in the emergency information portal. It tells you when something needs your attention and is related to public health. We scroll down a little bit farther, just before we go back up. We talk about our water by the numbers, and we mean it. We have a team of folks with good science that monitor 13 lakes and 27 streams at 73 different stations, generating 6,000 data points a year. That is commitment to good science and good process. And that just takes you through the front page. We haven't even really gotten into the buckets. So, to begin, over here for protecting and preserving our water quality, and this, I know, can be seen as a fluid topic. Where'd Teresa go? Okay. This can be seen as a fluid topic. However, we are firmly embedded with good science and good process to get here. Just a snapshot on what you see here. We're going to dive into just a couple pages. That was also a pun, Teresa. Water quality monitoring program, to our septic to sewer replacement, to stormwater management, to personal pollution, to our capital improvement projects, as well as low impact development. So just to go into one of those pages real quick, here are some of our folks on the water doing that monitoring. The monitoring that, again, generates 6,000 different data points in which we communicate as the primary source of information to FDEP as well as the EPA. We have all on the site the process by which we follow about good science, good strategy, good implementation, all based around 39 different chemistry parameters that, again, we monitor and we communicate that inform our policies and decisions. Now, this page goes on longer, but let's go back up to the top and pick away at just a couple more. Again, we're just skimming the surface. So, I heard one laugh. That was good. So, it is more than just going with the flow, though, for us. It is about doing things. It is not just monitoring the results of the water, but implementing good policies that inform good development, but also our county to septic to sewer projects, of which this is all up to date about how we leverage cash, how we leverage the grant money in the field, and how we have committed to and we're on track for our bold goal of replacing more than 600 septic tanks. All in here, all with current information about folks who can still sign up in the Woodville process. And then one last page in this bucket before we move on is pollution prevention. Wide topic. A wide topic that communicates in how we control our stormwater pollution and runoff, but in addition, how citizens can control their own personal pollution. Tips on how to do that, how to manage it, from washing cars to fertilizer in the water system to also checking and maintaining their septic tanks. So again, one big element of protecting and preserving our water quality. However, all of that is not possible if we don't take a deep dive into the data that makes up our water quality. On this tab, you have the opportunity to look at our water quality reports in depth, to look at interactive maps that show you how personal pollution and the water basins and watersheds operate and work themselves, and then importantly, how we access information about algal blooms. Now, while we're fortunate to have not had an incident since about 2017 in just several lakes, the point is this gives you all those resources to understand what it means to be an algal bloom, how you can report it, what are the resources and what are the health impacts related to algal blooms in our community, and who you should call to report that information. Now, all of those things are great. We can have the best water in our community, in the state, in the nation. We can have the best processes of science, but we do that all so that we can explore the county's rivers and lakes. And we do that through a whole list of one-stop shop for boat landings, about where you can go to get out on the water that we take the time to preserve and to monitor and to watch. And then in addition to that, fishing, as it aligns with fishing health advisories, what you can catch and what you can eat and what you should do. And then all the way through camping for long-term recreation. Because again, we are committed to the water quality and the resource that our community needs and wants and expects. And one of the ways in which we can get appreciation and citizen engagement is to encourage them to get outdoors, to get on the water, and to enjoy it to the best of their ability. Now, for the big effort is the staying informed on water. In here, this tab breaks down the local water policy and the local quality standards that we have, our responsibilities at Leon County as it relates to ordinance, environmental permitting, all that other good stuff. And you can get there and see from top to bottom what it is we have from our ordinances, but in addition, what we do at the state level on coordination with the Florida Association of Counties and the Water Policy Committee, in addition to the work that we do for the National Association of Counties and work with the Clean Water Act and other national-wide policies. In addition on the staying informed, we break down very clearly state and federal laws and regulations, where in this resource, we give you the opportunity to connect with FWC and FDEP on concerns and topics and activities that matter to the citizens who use the waterways. Dangerous boating, fish kills, algal blooms, industrial waste spills. This is that one-stop shop that gets the citizens the information that they need and gets them connected with the experts. And if they don't know, if this chart does not get them what they need, we have an entire team of folks in water resources that they can contact at any time to be able to access the data, to understand about their waterway, and to access information about ordinances and what we do. So again, from the largest lake to the smallest drop, this website has every bit of information that a citizen would need to engage meaningfully. And also, the website has contact information for our team. This isn't just only the way in which we engage with citizens. We have dedicated professionals in water resources that will work with citizens on topics. And in addition to all that, having the best website, we believe very clearly the best local government website in water resources, that this is a standard, which is the Google standard, which we would say, if you haven't been on to leoncountywater.org yet to check that out, then you maybe haven't done everything you could do. Because these resources about policies are all here with resources about health advisories and everything. Now, all that being said, what good is the best website possible if no one knows about it? So that's why full public information campaign and press to get out the information to the community on social media and on print and on radio, to get it all out in addition to kiosks at boat landings. Because I've been in this business for a little bit, so you know that interested users are your best folks to communicate with. So public information and educational kiosks are going to be a great way to get out that information in addition to the targeted outreach and the community organizations. So again, all the way from largest lake to smallest drop, this is the vital resource, leoncountywater.org, which is going to give everyone the things that they need to understand the process, to recreate, and to stay informed on water, one of our most important resources.
Thank you, Matt. What a flood of information you provided for us here.
That's good. I like the theme. Oh, good. And again, just commissioners, Teresa and John Kranak are here as well, as the county administrator had said, for the third strategic initiative about how we holistically implement and consider policy across our programs and projects. And they're here as well for any other additional information.
Again, thank you for all that information. I know that we have several commissioners in queue to speak. Commissioner Maddox, then Commissioner Minor, and Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is pretty amazing. When I was going over it in briefings, Vince told me it was going to be special, but this is even more not what I imagined it would be. I'm going to ask staff to share this with Florida Association of Counties. I'm pretty sure we're likely going to win a NACO award for this. So proud of the work that you guys produced on this, and even the metaphors you made during your presentation, Matt, were pretty clever. Mr. Chair, you were up there too. Would expect nothing less from you. But I just want to make sure this is spread. Like you talked about getting the word out about this, not just in Leon County, but across the state. This is a standard setting type of thing we're doing here. I'm so proud to be associated with Leon County and the work that you're producing with producing something like this. And I think the most impressive part of what you said was not necessarily putting the site together, but when you said that this site will always be up to date. That's hard to even fathom how you can continuously keep something like this up to date when you think about all the water that comes in and out of our community and goes from place to place throughout our communities. But I know that you'll meet the standard. So I wanted to tell staff, job well done, Mr. Administrator. Whoever came up with this idea deserves a raise. And also want to make sure that we share this with NACO, with FACT folks, as well as definitely the NACO folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, let me add to the showering of praise for everybody on this. This is really incredible. There'll be a point where it's not really fun anymore. We haven't gotten to that point yet. And Commissioner Maddox, I think this NACO will be, I think, very impressed by this. And with Commissioner Dozier, with your position on the Water Resources Council, this is going to be very helpful to them too. One of the first things I did after I got elected was meet with folks that are very interested in Lake Jackson and the constituency around that lake. It's fully in my district, in District 3, and so I've got a lot of folks in my district that I've spoken to frequently about water quality alerts, fish consumption, those types of things. This website will address, I think, all of those questions. So this is very, very helpful. Thank you. We've actually got a meeting, Jody, with the Friends of Lake Jackson, I think tomorrow. And this is live as of now, correct?
In just a few hours.
Okay, great. They will be very happy to see this. So I know that you can tell there's been a tremendous amount of work done on this. It shows, and it's worthwhile. So thank you to not just the folks that are here, three of you, but everybody that put time into this to make this a benefit to the citizens that live here. So thank you very much.
And I'm proud to hear from our very own Leon County Aqua woman, Commissioner Dozier.
That was a bit of a stretch there. I will leave the puns to everyone else, but thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, like most of you, I'm hearing about water issues all the time, and it may be testing water quality in Lake Lafayette or a stormwater question from a developer, something else, flooding that we had last December. And I want to compliment Commissioner Maddox, you and the leadership of Florida Association of Counties for establishing the Water Committee at FAC. That was announced last November, just before our retreat, and I started wondering if there was a way that we could wrap our arms around water policy in this community a little better. We adopted the strategic initiatives. County Administrator, you, the team, and the puns, you knocked it out of the park. This is phenomenal. I think it goes well beyond anything that we had imagined when we adopted the strategic initiatives, but you hit the mark perfectly. So I really want to compliment, this is 9 months worth of work to bring all these pieces together. So it is exceptional. Commissioner Minor, like you, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are very excited about this. There have been people who have wondered, what is this big thing that you're about to take on? And as we started sharing the agenda item, I think they're going to be able to see exactly where we were going. So, couple of notes. Ms. County Administrator, we talked about this in briefing yesterday. It's your assessment. I asked the question. This is the most comprehensive agenda item we've had on water issues in Leon County in your memory. Is that right? That in itself is enormous. Just to look through this, and I think you said the challenge was limiting the amount of information and distilling it. So it's not easy to write these items. The website looks fantastic, but the information you have, if anyone wanted to read a good summary of what it looks like to protect water quality, take care of the quantity, all those different aspects in our community, you all got it right. And Teresa and John, your teams, you're working every day on this at the building department and others, and I just so truly appreciate those efforts. One other thing you mentioned, and I wanted to draw this out a little bit, Mr. County Administrator, you indicated that this may be a resource not just for the public, which was kind of the initial idea, but for our staff, for professionals, for others to use this site as a one-stop. Is that right? Do you want to say anything more about that?
Well, no, just that, and thank you, Commissioner. But to add on, yes, now that we've got all of this organized in one spot, I could see us from a staff level utilizing the site as well in our daily activities. You got the idea already, and we appreciate. Again, you all challenged us to throw deep on this one during your retreat, and the staff appreciates your compliments on it. I'll just reinforce that you really just saw just the surface of this. Once you have time to go through this, you will see interactive maps that maps our water bodies, including our water quality monitoring stations, to get that kind of site-specific information. Commissioner Minor talked about fish consumption. Well, you can do that by lake and water body with the types of fish there, including the advisable amount of each type of fish to eat. So it just gives you an idea, again, of just how much information is there. So, yes, thank you. And Commissioner Dozier, you're right. This will be a resource for us as well.
That's fantastic. So 2 last things, Mr. Chair, and I'll turn it over. First, I am a member now of the Water Committee, and proud to represent our county. I think there's 38 of us on the Water Committee. We have our next meeting in November at FAC Legislative, and I don't think we need board direction on this, but what I'd like to do is share the agenda item and the website with FAC staff to be able to present it at that meeting. I strongly believe that from the Florida Association of Counties perspective, trying to look at water issues across the state, both on the process side, but also specific issues, this is going to be a model for what other counties can do. And I would, in addition to any well-deserved recognition, Commissioner Maddox, I think particularly want to put it in front of the Water Committee and see if we can move that forward, unless there was any concerns about that. Then the last thing, Mr. County Administrator, for you, and you may want to turn this over to John and Teresa, this is phenomenal. I don't want to diminish it, but the second part of this was to look at our policies, and I'm not diminishing it at all. This gets us started in a way that we've never been before, to be able to wrap our arms around our different policies and look at emerging issues, look at challenges with climate change, with other things moving forward. So how do you all see using this site and the way we've looked at this interdepartmentally in going forward? When we have a particular water issue come up, how will this benefit us?
Well, I probably will turn it over to John and Teresa, who may have a little bit more insight from a policy standpoint. I can tell you from a project standpoint, obviously you saw a little bit about this. We're very excited about, again, when you talk about projects that are ongoing today, like our sewer conversion projects. major tool for us to be able to, and right now, as we are signing people up to say, people who, again, may not be very familiar with the technology that we're transitioning them to learn everything there is to know about that, more than we could tell them at a public meeting, and then break down all of the costs associated with those types of things under our grant programs. Again, and allow people to take their time with that type of information. That's just one, issue relative to projects where we see this being, again, a real resource for us. And I would defer to John and Teresa if they want to elaborate any further on some of the policy issues that you noted.
And if not?
Commissioners, I think one of the important things that you will see with the website is when we look at the water quality data, if there's trends like we may be seeing more pollution in one area or another, we may need to take a look at stormwater regulations in those areas. And with this information being right there in front of us, it'll be a lot easier to do. So that's just one of the things that comes to mind.
It's a fantastic example. Thank you, John. I know it could go a lot of different directions, but this was the hope, that having everything interconnected within one site, and we could analyze it in a different way. So I love that first example. And the project piece, we're doing a whole lot more than the public knows, and I'm really excited to share this site. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have one speaker this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The speaker is Danielle Irwin.
Good afternoon, Ms. Irwin. Name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Danielle Irwin, 3185 Ferns Glen Drive. I'm very excited about the information about this. Thank you, Commissioner Dozier, for giving me a heads up on the agenda item. This starts hinting at a One Water initiative. If you're not familiar with One Water initiatives, it's starting to spread throughout the state, really taking our water out of the silos that they exist, so drinking water, wastewater, stormwater, and starting to see how we can get some benefits by looking at them more holistically as a complete system. I'll also mention that I sit on the Water Resources Committee for Leon County, and I'm excited about encouraging our committee members to exercise this website. I know we are routinely asking our staff liaison to get updates on various things, such as the septic to sewer conversion, the alternatives to that, and where some of the programs are going. So instead of having staff come all the time to update us, now we have a resource at our fingertips to be able to understand it. One thing I would recommend, and the website may already do this, I look forward to testing it out, is the connection with FDEP's Map Direct, which is an online resource, a portal that has lots of GIS layers relating to water quality, OFW boundaries, TMDL and BMAP targets, and integrating that into what we're doing here locally now gives you not just the local information, but also how it fits into the statewide water policy issues. So I am hoping that we're using some of that information, or at least directly linking to where that is available. There's two other things I'll mention. One, that when we're dealing with septic to sewer, there are a number of different alternatives, some that are being researched right now, some that are a little bit newer, may or may not be applicable to our area. And so I hope that there's an opportunity within this to start exploring some of those alternatives, or at least offer some information to developers about various alternatives for them to consider in their new development. Additionally, when we're dealing with our stormwater and getting enhanced nutrient reduction, there's a lot of new innovative approaches that are being done in other municipalities and in other counties around the state that may or may not be applicable here, but having some place where the ideas are available to developers to consider when they're considering retrofits or new construction, this really can become a portal in a number of different ways, not just for what our data is, but for what the world is around our state that's being implemented to try and move us to the next level as water quality requirements are getting more restrictive. I celebrate the staff for having done this. This is a tremendous resource. It's as wide and deep as the ocean, and I look forward to swimming in it. Thank you.
So fair, you had more time to think about your pun than we did. Do I have a motion at this time for option one? Moved by Commissioner Maddox, seconded by Commissioner Dozier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Motion passes, and outstanding work by Matt and staff. Thank you guys so much. Our next agenda item, Mr. Administrator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item seeks board consideration to implement a flat fee methodology for the issuance of residential building permit fees, to further expedite the plan review process and to simplify how our fees are calculated, and to proceed with an overall building fee study. I'd like to continue this trend of really good staff work here and commend Doug Maples, our chief building official. I'd like to ask him to come forward, and Doug can talk a little bit more about how this will help us do our jobs more efficiently, and again, to continue to serve our community even better. Let me just say, as a heads up, that Doug's doing a great job for us, and this is just one example of that. And with that, commissioners, we'd invite any questions you might have, and if you'd like, Doug can give you just a little brief overview with a little more detail, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like that.
Sure. Just give us a overview. Good to have you here, Doug. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to water down this important issue.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Honorable Chairman and Commissioners, it's a pleasure for me to stand before you and present Agenda 22. That revises the existing fee schedule. This proposal also advances the FY 2017, FY 2021 5-year target that reduces the time it takes to approve a permit, as well as it delivers effective and efficient services and exercises sound fiscal management. The proposal would simplify and expedite the permitting process by revising the fee assessment practice. There are two parts to this agenda, with the first part addressing the changing of the method we calculate fees. The current process uses an antiquated, complex, and labor-intensive method requiring plan reviewer staff to itemize each mechanical appliance, electrical component, plumbing fixture, and gas appliance to calculate the cost of fees for permits. This practice is done after the plans are approved. This method delays the issuance of permits by several days. In addition, the home builders do not have the capacity or certainty to know what their permit fee is until that permit is approved. Hundreds of issued single-family permits were reviewed and analyzed to evaluate the fees that were charged using this itemized methodology. Using the direction from Florida state statutes to identify best practices, assessment of fees charged, and number of inspections for projects over a 2-year period, the flat fee was developed using a square footage for each category, which projects that change this to a revenue neutral position. The flat fee uses the square footage of the structure under roof to assess the permit fee. Due to the factors used in the flat fee analysis, some permits may increase and some may decrease based off of the size of the project. Due to the immediate significant benefits allowing builders to have a cost certainty up front and further reducing in permit process, Part 1 was recommended to proceed immediately with the new fee methodology. Part 2 is a consideration of an overall permit fee study that ensures the fees are properly set to recover the cost of the program. In closing, this proposal for Parts 1 and 2 provide best customer service, transparency for calculating permit fees, expediting the plan review process, improving overall efficiency. Furthermore, this proposal meets the board's target of governance and strategic priorities. Additionally, The proposal addresses Florida state statutes that jurisdictions must demonstrate fiscal stewardship and best practices by collecting fees consistent with the services provided. The flat fee is anticipated to reduce timeframes associated with plan review, expedite, streamline, and clarify calculations of permit fees, provide transparency to the public by allowing the means to calculate the permit fees before they apply for a permit, be revenue neutral, and assist the board in meeting their bold goal of 8 days for working days to review single-family houses. We've also worked in concert with the community construction, TBA, Tallahassee Building Home Builders, as well as Advisory Committee on Quality Growth. And I believe that there's few people in the audience here to speak to this matter, but I do want to mention that this is a step, first step in improvement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Want to make a motion this time? Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. We do have a speaker, and when I had my briefing, I was actually told that members of TBA stood up and gave some applause to some of the changes that were presented and some of the ideas, which I found very interesting because I stood before them when I campaigned back in 2016, and I did not receive an applause. But we would like to have our speaker come up at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill Kimbrell.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I'm Bill Kimbrell, reside at 1970 Bushy Hall Road, Tallahassee, Florida. Yeah, I'm a local building contractor. I'm also a small construction company owner. I'm a past president of the Tallahassee Builders Association, also serve on its Governmental Affairs Committee and its Board of Directors. Also serve on the Advisory Committee for the Quality Growth through your very own Growth Management Department. And I'm here basically to show support for this agenda item. It has been vetted through the Tallahassee Builders Association Governmental Affairs. It has been vetted through the Advisory Committee for Quality Growth, which also has 2 building contractors and 2 commercial contractors serving on it. You know, basically it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win-win for growth management as it reduces waste of time counting the BEMPs, which are your building, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing units, which in turn assures we get our permits a little quicker, which has been a huge complaint with the building community, as the commissioners that regularly attend our governmental affairs meetings will tell you. It also adds predictability to the permit fee cost. So when we are doing a proposal, et cetera, we can pretty much plug in the square footage and we know exactly how much that permit cost. I want to thank David McDivitt, Pam Scott, Barry Wilcox. New Chief Building Officer Doug Maples is doing an outstanding job. I'd like to thank the few dedicated commissioners that regularly show up to our TBA governmental affairs meetings and listen to our concerns and complaints and takes the necessary steps to do what they can. You know, we've come a long way in the last couple of years, as Ms. Dozier will probably tell you, and this is definitely a step in the right direction. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate you coming out. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Bill said, this is a long time coming, and want to thank you, Rob Watson, for your efforts at TBA. The organization has grown back into a full organization post-recession and really has a new conversation going with the city and county that I think is extremely helpful. and help get us here. You serve on a lot of committees and you help inform us. With Barry Wilcox, with others from the department, been focused on making a lot of great changes over the years. We have come a long way, and I don't want to put all of this on Doug Maple's shoulders, but we have seen rapid changes in the last few months, and I just want to compliment Mr. County Administrator, a good hire, and also the foresight to really let our department move quickly. We've got the data, we've got the information, we've been looking at this for a long time, and quite bluntly, this item, this new fee structure, answers one of the most common questions that we all struggled with, was how do we know before we apply what the permit fee is going to be? It seemed like a very simple question. It wasn't under our old system. It is now, and if that has the byproduct of increasing the speed of turnaround in permits, that is a perennial issue that we've heard about in the community. So this is a win-win-win, as you said, Bill, and I really compliment not just where we are, but how quickly we got here. So thank you all very much. And Mr. Chair, we already have a motion, yes? Okay. Well, I enthusiastically support it, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. We do have a motion on the floor for option 1, 2, and 3, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Mr. Administrator, item 23.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As directed by this board back on September 17th, this agenda item provides a draft ordinance to provide civil penalties for misdemeanor marijuana possession offenses. In accordance with the direction provided by the board, the item also provides input that we received from the State Attorney's Office as well as local law enforcement agencies with regard to the draft ordinance. We have one speaker card on this item. We're seeking your direction, and I should also note that Herb Tila is here on deck as well, should you have any questions.
How about we take our speaker and listen, and then we will open it up to comments.
Our speaker card, Melissa Villar.
Good afternoon, Ms. Villar.
Hello, good afternoon. I just would like to address the board for drafting a simple, no-nonsense ordinance for possession, cannabis possession, cannabis paraphernalia, which we're trying to move to the term accessories. But it's simple, no-nonsense, $100 fine or community service, exactly what the community is seeking. To make it fair and equitable throughout the county, regardless of any previous infractions or, regardless of anybody's personal situation, they're entitled to a civil penalty for marijuana possession. So, again, we want to thank you for a very simple draft, no nonsense. And again, just thanking the board.
Thank you, ma'am. We do have a commissioner in queue to speak. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I am glad that we have the item before us. Forgive me, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if the microphone is picking up the speakerphone here. It's on. Okay. I'm hearing a little bit of sound out here, so I'll pause if needed. Just have a couple of quick comments about this. One, this is, as we discussed last time, challenging because we don't have the authority to require any of our law enforcement partners to take action on this ordinance. I respect their role without question, and would not seek to impose this on any one of our law enforcement partners. Having said that, we are between a lot of rocks and hard places. This was evidenced by the state's attorney's statement several months ago that he was going to find it difficult to prosecute small quantities of marijuana possession, stuck on that phrase, because there isn't a good test for hemp and marijuana at this point. This is not decriminalization, as our county attorney has rightly pointed out. It is civil fines, preventing the criminal record for people who don't qualify or aren't singled out for the existing civil citation program. I am not one for just going for the talking points. I think you all know that I want something that has force, that actually makes a difference in our community, and always looking to make sure our policies work in partnership with all of our law enforcement or other agency partners or community in general. In this case, however, I think it is our responsibility to have an ordinance on the books that could be accessed by any of our law enforcement agencies if they choose moving forward. We've not seen the end of marijuana laws changing. They have to change more. We need some clarity. We may see an amendment to the ballot next year. We may see movement in the federal government, I would guess after 2020 November. But things are going to change. This is a tool that if it was used by one of the 20 plus agencies in our community to prevent one person from having a permanent criminal record that interrupts their ability to get a job and live a full life in our community, I think it is worth it. And I think it is moving in the right direction. I respect the sheriff and the state's attorney's position on this, but again, I think it is a tool that we need to have on the books so that it is accessible in the future. And I want to close here with something Commissioner Maddox said at the last meeting. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and it was brought up at our board several times. We didn't jump on it. We've seen many cities and counties around the state move forward with this. But the way, Commissioner Maddox, you structured this in the last meeting was something, you put it in a different way. Others can make their choices. This is very complicated, and we respect everyone's different position here. But we have to do what we can to help citizens in our community. And this is the least we can do to address a problem that is not of our making in our legal structure that is affecting people's lives every day. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm going to make a motion for, I was looking at the wrong spot, option 2. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll move option 2.
Motion's on the floor for option 2. Is there a second? Motion has been made as well as seconded. We do have a commissioner in queue to speak. I'd like to hear from them before we move on with the vote. Commissioner Minor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've thought a lot about this. I support the notion of decriminalizing small amounts of marijuana possession. As Commissioner Dozier said, the laws are changing quickly. And I think while what we do with option 2, assuming it passes, may have little effect in practice, it does give us a chance to be ahead of the issue and to, as conditions change, help citizens that may be arrested for small amounts of marijuana going forward. A couple questions just for our county attorney, and just also to summarize. So, state attorney has committed to following federal and state law, so he intends to still uphold the law when it comes to prosecutions of small amounts of marijuana. However, he has said, as I think Commissioner Dozier mentioned, that for the time being, he's temporarily suspended those prosecutions because of the hemp versus marijuana determination issues. That's correct, right?
That's what he said.
That's what he said. The sheriff and FSU police departments have said they're going to follow the state attorney's positions. So they're basically going to follow what the direction of the state attorney is. TCC as well. FAMU Police Department has said whatever we decide to do, whatever the state attorney decides to do, will have little effect because they really don't have they typically don't arrest for this type of infraction. What they do is they refer that to the university system. What that leaves open is Tallahassee Police Department, which the city of Tallahassee is going to determine at tomorrow's meeting, presumably. So if they were to decide to decriminalize marijuana in the same way that we may tonight, would anything we do here supersede what the city of Tallahassee decides to do? That was, I think, in the agenda item in some of the news reports that I've read too.
No, it would not if they choose to have a regulatory ordinance of their own, but they could choose to do nothing, and this ordinance would apply within the city limits.
Okay, I see. Okay, great. I'm going to support your motion, Commissioner Dozier. I do think, and I said this at the last time we discussed this, I want to, in the future, going forward, I think the federal and state lawmaking bodies really, and us, when it becomes pertinent, really need to take a look at how exposure to marijuana, whether it's youth smoking it or being exposed to it by secondhand smoke, what we can do to limit that as much as possible. Same thing with alcohol. Marijuana use, we know, studies show that it permanently hinders the ability of young people's mental development. And so I want to make sure that, at least in my mind, in the back of my mind, I'm going to be having that as something that we need to watch over. I don't want this county commission to be responsible in the push to move so fast and so furious on decriminalizing this, which I think is a good thing. I don't want us to forget that notion and make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect young people that should not be exposed to marijuana in a way that could permanently damage their development. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah, go ahead. Just a second, Commissioner Proctor, we're hearing from the county attorney. Just a moment.
I just want to make sure that it's clear that what we are proposing, what this ordinance does, is provide another level of enforcement capability. It does not decriminalize possession of marijuana. Those are still there in state statute and in the federal statutes. This would provide law enforcement with another option, which is a citation for the ordinance violation rather than arresting, if you would, under the federal or state statutes. Obviously, we'll have to see how this works in practice, but again, my vision of this is none of this ever gets to the state attorney's office because it's not a criminal prosecution. It's a civil infraction. We're going to have to set up a system that, much like the Code Enforcement Board would be for real property related matters, we would have to set up a system where if a law enforcement officer, whether it be the sheriff or TCC or FDLE or TPD, my wife hates it when I use all of those letter acronyms, but anyhow, if any of the LEOs in town, there's another one for you, law enforcement officers in town, choose to use this either because it is their department's or the sheriff's office's direction that those people on the street, the law enforcement officers, should, unless there's some other reason, should use the ordinance, then they would, and we will have to create, if you would, a civil citation that they would use. We've done that before for example, our noise control ordinance. And so we would create a system. It would be not a replacement. It's not supposed to be municipal court again, but it would be a system where you would pay the fine. It doesn't make any difference if you've had a prior citation or arrest, but we have to provide some due process. So we would have to set up a system where if you don't believe that the officer cited you correctly, there's an appellate capability. You can appeal that to, and we have in here a hearing officer. I just want to be clear that we're not endeavoring, if you adopt this in December and January, to supersede any existing law. This is a separate, I used the word when we were doing put together, a shadow, if you would, but it's not. It's an alternative methodology for addressing simple under 20 gram possession. And if the law enforcement agencies choose not to utilize it, then they choose not to utilize it. Anyhow, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Proctor, are you there?
Chairman, yes, sir, I am. Good evening, commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. My comments will be really brief, and I think that what the county attorney has just advised us, we have come up with various adjudicatory processes, including drug court, our mental health court. We've had the soldiers court, and we've convened for soldiers to come out. So we're familiar, we're flexible, we have history of being adaptive to special needs of different species. So it's not an impossibility that we can meet the challenges of what would be required to meet consistent with the county attorney's expressions. I believe that. I believe that we should strike through the language which is suggesting that the office section and that we ought just to make this a civil citation, and that it ought not to be the discretion of the officer. And I'm looking specifically at section 12. I think it was 12-81 under Article 4. And under that section where it says issued by and at the discretion of a law enforcement officer, I ask the commission to delete that language and let it stand as it is. You definitely get into situations and operate or features standard, and by simply taking that discretionary notion away from the officer, it becomes less problematic. People not concerned that it has a geographic specific application, and I think that we advance the totality of the idea of equal justice and fairness under law. But I am complimenting my colleagues today and the support of Commissioner Dozier's motion, and I think that we have advanced. We're facing the future. We're walking into the future. Just about some lifted up and raised, but again, be out there and be the sole person of leadership who is saying that we should not blight the record of citizens when our state attorney is saying, I don't know how exactly to influence the law. So we should do everything we can to minimize and to marginalize consequences of criminality so we get greater clarity, and hopefully this will be a moot issue after November of next year. I will be supporting and counting in the affirmative, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. We have several commissioners in queue to speak. Commissioner Deloge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think when you get right down to it, we can't decriminalize marijuana. No matter how you want to phrase this, what you want to say, the sheriff has made it abundantly clear he's not arresting 20 grams or less. He's basically, if need be, they go to the diversion. The state attorney has said he's not prosecuting these. I think we're getting a little bit out of our swim lane here and trying to basically put something in place that confuses things, and I think we're kidding the public to say that we have the legal authority to decriminalize marijuana. It's not, this body does not have that right. We can say we're doing that, and that's the way the paper may report it. It doesn't work like that. Now, what we have done, which I'm real proud of here as a community, is they've got the diversion program. So and you cannot take away the law enforcement's discretion in the street. As much as we'd like to be able to bind their hands, there's 26 arresting authorities here in this community. There's no way they're going to listen to us to force them to do something. In fact, you want to riot on your hands? That's what, when we start trying to tell law enforcement how to do their job, I think we've opened up Pandora's box. They, in the moment, can say there's a diversion program. And guess what? You'll never have an arrest record. You'll never have a criminal record. You'll never be prosecuted. You'll never go through this. We've got the best we can possibly hope for under the structure that we have today. Until our state makes a decision that they do want to somehow legalize this, it's not in our swim lane to do this. And I think, with all due respect to Commissioner Dozier's comments, I think it's disrespectful to the state attorney and to the sheriff, who I think are trying to do their job, and now we're lobbing something in their lap that's contrary to what they've effectively said the way they're processing this today. My read of the letters and my conversations with them lead me to believe that they're not real happy about the direction we're taking with this. It would be like the sheriff coming in here and saying, I want to somehow do a land use ordinance. It's not, I mean, there's places we all fit, and I just think we're stepping out of our bounds here. So listen, and at the risk of ruining my political career, I've probably got more experience in this particular area than anybody in the room. So, I mean, I get the need for this, and I'm not saying it's not. And I've been to Oregon, Alaska, Colorado, Washington State. I've met with leadership in all these states that are putting recreational marijuana out there. It's rife with potholes. And for us as a county to suddenly say, well, we're going to do something that flies in the face of what our state has done, just further complicates this. And I think it sends a bad message out to the public that's really not true, because we don't have the latitude to decriminalize marijuana in that sense. So for that reason, I don't think we get anything done with this. I guess is my point. So thank you.
Commissioner Lindley and then Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Commissioner Deloge so much. I feel like, in a way, we're trying to create an ordinance and waiting until the feds or the state take marijuana from their list of controlled substances. I think that will happen in time, but right now I think we're just creating, if we pass this now, I think we're creating confusion. Leon County supports deregulation of marijuana through this ordinance, but in fact nothing will change. I mean, it may prepare people, it's an incentive, it's good for politics in a way, but I just think I think it's an empty statement right now, and I don't want to confuse people. I don't want to try to say we can do something when we have absolutely no authority to do it. So for this reason, I can't support the amendment or your motion to support that amendment. I would offer a substitute amendment of accepting the status report and taking no further action.
All right, let's hear our commissioners remaining, and we did have a speaker card submitted. We'll dispense with the original motion when we vote, and then we'll look at the second motion. Commissioner Maddox and then Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Just real quick, the draft ordinance that we're looking at right now, does it? Commissioner Proctor talked a little bit about the language saying it still gives the officer the discretion to use this ordinance or to arrest, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How is it any different than the civil citation program that we have in place right now, whereas it still gives the officer the discretion to arrest or to give a civil citation?
The only difference is that this would allow the civil citations to be issued to, if you would, repeat offenders, which you can't get in the diversion program, as I understand it. If you have a criminal record, you don't qualify.
Okay. So the only difference you're stating is just specifically with the repeat offender portion of it. So if someone, let's say, repeatedly offends, let's say you get caught with 20 grams or less 7 times. All 7 times they could quite possibly be given a civil citation, correct?
Yes.
But if the officer decides to go in the other direction and say, okay, this has been your 3rd or 4th time, we can no longer do this with you, we're going to arrest you, they can also do that as well.
Yes.
So in essence, it's really formalizing the system that we have in place with a slight wrinkle of it gives the officer the discretion to say, hey, if it's their 4th time, because I think right now what we have in place is 3 times and then you're gone.
I think it's even 2. But
2, okay. So it gives the officer discretion that after that 2nd time, that 3rd time, if they still want to give that civil citation, they still can. But if they don't, they can go in the other direction and arrest as well.
Yes. Nothing we could do could bind the law enforcement officer. They have
Right.
discretion all the time.
So here's the thing: we throw around the word decriminalization like it's a real thing, and let's be honest, it's not a real thing. This is not decriminalizing anything. I've had a conversation with the sheriff. I also spoke to the state attorney, and I sat on the fence of this thing all the way up until the minute that I sat in this seat and I started to think of it. And the rationale that came, I want to give it a chance to get to public hearing for the simple reason of what we're doing right here is that we are, in essence, formalizing a system that's already in place and taking it a step further to give that officer even more discretion that if they wanted to use this ordinance, they can use it, which after the second or third offense, which right now, the way it's set, they can't. So I'm going to support the motion on the floor, or the original motion on the floor, because I don't see anything wrong with formalizing the system. But when it comes back in December, I do reserve the right to look at it in a different manner. If you had answered a couple of my questions in a different way, Mr. County Attorney, maybe I'll be thinking about this thing a little bit differently. I think when you throw around the word decriminalization, it really, at that point, I think it does become a slap in the face, not only to the state attorney and the county and the sheriff, but also the federal laws itself. But when you think about it, we're already doing this. It's just not on the books. And even if we want to go ahead and say, add to the ordinance that we put that second, third offense piece in there, add it. If that's what makes everybody more comfortable getting there, add a second, third offense in there, because the sheriff or the sheriff's office has already said that they're going to follow what law is, and if law says that second, third offense, you can no longer access the civil citation program, that you're going to be arrested, then so be it. But I do believe, you talked about ambiguity and what we're doing. Right now, what you got out there is an option that's not necessarily on the books that an officer can access, but doesn't necessarily have to, okay? My support for this is just simply, let's put it on the books. I don't see anything wrong with putting it on the books. I don't think anybody gets hurt in that case. I don't think it changed. I don't think it slaps anybody in the face if we just formalize the system that we already have in place, and quite frankly, stop calling it decriminalization, because that's not what it is. I don't have any intent to decriminalize anything. That's not in my purview. That's not what I can do. That's not at all. But when we put that, when we sat here and we put the civil citation program in place in the first place, we took this step. We might not have had this 20 grams of marijuana possession in mind when we did it, but we put this in place. We just didn't put an ordinance specific to marijuana in place at the same time. So I'm willing to take it to the next level, to formalize a system that we already have in place. And if there's any suggestions when we get to that level of mirroring a lot more of what we're doing with the civil citation program as is, I'll support that. And those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good discussion. We don't always agree all the time, of course. And I really appreciate the perspectives of everyone, whether you're supporting this or not. And Commissioner Maddox, you just honed in on something that I was going to ask about, and I really appreciate your line of questions there. One example, if we were able to expand the adult civil citation program to include what is reflected in this ordinance, I would have been happy with that. The example we used at the last commission meeting was, if someone has a DUI 10 years ago and then is caught with 20 grams, they do not qualify. So it's not just other types of offenses. It was, and Mr. County Attorney, you had agreed with that it can be some minor mistakes, I will say, but things that are illegal. And we have stopped calling it decriminalization. We can't help that other people do at times, but we do need to have the right language. You're absolutely right, that this is a civil penalty for something that is illegal and not a criminal penalty. And we have similar penalties for traffic violations, for lots of different things. Mr. County Attorney, if I'm not mistaken, 20 grams or less was included in the adult civil citation program on a first offense. Is that right? So we have already taken action in this particular subject within the scope of our adult civil citation. And I completely agree with your comments about discretion. My last comment here, and forgive me, but Commissioner Deloge, I can't go without making comment on this, because I think it's disappointing to me to ascribe disrespect to any of us. I think we are respectful, all of us, of our law enforcement and the struggle that we have to look at criminal justice in a way that actually rehabilitates people, helps them get to a good place, and prevents some small infractions that are illegal from impacting people's lives for decades or their entire life. In this one, I do not think we're stepping out of our lane. If we were out of our lane, we should never have done the adult civil citation, which I believe you were a vocal support of, and in fact became a model across the state. Now, the state's attorney took that in and, adopted that program. This is exactly in line with the adult civil citation program in respect to how we structure an ordinance and lend our voice to some of these issues where we intersect with criminal justice and law enforcement. So I do this with the utmost respect for all of our law enforcement partners, and it is one more tool in the toolbox that they could exercise in the future at their discretion. And I agree that we have to have that language, and I would not want it any other way. So thank you for the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We do have
Chairman,
one.
weigh in again.
What are you saying?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Proctor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's strange looking at you all in a delayed frame, and I'm trying to hear through a telephone receiver, which is in real time and all like that. Let me ask the county attorney, what is the state of the confession in this ordinance and in the previous measure, which you had to confess your guilt in exchange to receive the civil citation? Is that still a standard?
I'm not sure I exactly heard your question, but the other civil citation program, the diversion program, if you would, still exists.
I'm fighting it here, but nevertheless, did you say that you have to confess in order to get a civil citation under this ordinance?
Under this ordinance, no. As I understand, if you're talking about the state attorney's position, as I understand what Mr. Campbell has said is that he's not going to prosecute marijuana or hemp issues at present because of the inability to measure or test accurately for that, and only in the circumstances in which some individual confesses to the possession of cannabis is he going to run with the prosecution. So unless there's a confession, he's not going to pursue them. But the civil citation program still is out there and exists.
Yes, sir. Well, I recall that his 2019 letter that went out to the law enforcement community indicated that he did have a difficulty because of testing inability to distinguish hemp from cannabis, from marijuana, whatever, and all confused and everything else. So to have the technology to test was his difficulty. However, in his letter to the law enforcement community in 2017, his difficulty with the civil citation had to do with the fact that the only way you could receive it was that the person who was caught by the officer would have to confess in exchange to receive the civil citation. And the state attorney said that he could not allow and could not prosecute because once that person confessed, then they failed to pay their money or they failed to complete the program, Then they were ordered back to the state attorney to be prosecuted. And initially, his was not with regard to civil citation, anything to do with the chemical testing. It had to do with due process and whether or not once that person had a quid pro quo, I will give you a civil citation if you will confess right here on the spot, but you got to confess your guilt. And the state attorney was saying, and he said to law enforcement, I cannot prosecute this. This is not what due process is. So I want to be sure that in this ordinance, consistent with this 2017 memo, that we are aware that we are not also forcing the confession of a person who has 20 or less grams in order to get the civil citation. What Jack said was, look, if you got to get a quid pro quo, it's the quid pro quo element that makes it violative of due process. And therefore, I'm hopeful that we are sensitive to the state attorney's position, and it also is mine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. We do have one speaker in queue, and then we will, I'm sorry. Commissioner Maddox, if we could invite Mr. Terrell.
Mr. Attorney, my line of question earlier, Commissioner Dozier actually said something a second ago that kind of made me want to ask another question. So if a person has a DUI or some other minor offense, and then that's their first offense, their second offense is a 20 grams or less, at that point, that triggers the second offense limit, which could put the officer at a point where they have to enforce or have to arrest, correct? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So it's not limited specifically to...
No,
Yeah.
it could be any other criminal offense that preceded the stop for the possession of marijuana.
Okay, now that part right there, I think we specifically need to look at within the civil citation program, because, and I'm going to ask that the commission, supporters of this motion, think about this. I don't think that you should be able to continually offend this ordinance and be let go. So as it reads right now, it gives the officer the option, right? But let's say it's the option 20 times from now, this person has still been caught with the same thing, and they are able to get a civil citation by this ordinance if the officer chooses to do so. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think we should entertain a version of the ordinance that does have a limit on offenses, whether it's 2 or 3, a limit on the amount of offenses, specifically for 20 grams of cannabis possession or less. Yeah, I would like to see an option that presents that, because I know I can't support something that allows someone to continually offend, but at the same time, you know, if I got pulled over for a speeding ticket, and then that's my minor offense, and then my second offense is, you know, I got 20 grams or less, I also on the other end don't agree that I should be arrested for that. So would we need amendment to the motion for staff to come back with a limit on the number of offenses?
We can do that. I mean, we'll give you that alternative language for the December meeting.
Okay, but you don't need a.
No,
okay.
we'll just give that in the agenda item, a cap, if you would.
Cap, yes.
Commissioner Deloge on point, and then back to Commissioner Dozier. Promise we'll get to you, Mr.
We do not have the right to tell law enforcement how to manage this process. So it would be the equivalent of us saying you need to wear purple hats when you patrol this neighborhood. It's a nonsense. I mean, I understand if I take a library book out and I don't bring it back, and I take another one out and don't bring it back, eventually the library is going to stop lending me books. If I get a speeding ticket and a speeding ticket and a speeding ticket, yeah. But there's a reason, there's a method for this. But what we do here in the form of an ordinance is not going to bind that. I mean, that they're going to follow what the sheriff and what the TPD chief and what the. I mean, we're not going to. This is a little bit of a. We're not going to impact this, I guess is what I'm saying.
It is not binding on any law enforcement.
That's my point. If I'm a sheriff deputy, I'm going to follow what the sheriff outlines as far as the process, and their process is what we've said, which is repeat offenders are going to be treated a little differently, like you would with speeding tickets or parking tickets or anything at some point.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Dozier, then we'll listen to Mr. Terrell, and we'll go to a vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I had a question on point with Commissioner Maddox's line of thinking that I believe some of the other communities in Florida have a limit on the number of times that you could have a civil penalty for possession. And I would love to see that language too. So thank you for that.
Will do.
And none of this compels anyone. We're not telling anyone to wear a purple hat or a blue hat or anything like that. It is a tool in the toolbox. But I think leaning towards that limit would help us demonstrate that there are criminal activities that go along with drug possession that is illegal. I mean, that's just the way it is. And let's be frank, some legal drug possession with opioids and everything else that becomes illegal. So I look forward to that language. And I guess the only other thing was if there's any other options like that that you see in other communities. I'm not sure we've had some time since those ordinances. But, yeah, that was just something we hadn't come back to, Commissioner Maddox. So thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you for your patience, Mr. Terrell. 3 minutes. Name and address for the record.
Thank you. Ryan Terrell, 1120 Co Landing. I just wanted to first off say that thank you, commissioners, for having this needed discussion. It's a long overdue discussion that has been needed in this community. The point that I want to refocus y'all's attention on before you have this vote is to think about the repeat offender language that y'all have just been talking about. When I was a legislative aide, I met a woman by the name of Kathy Jordan when we were drafting the medical marijuana bill in 2013. And under that scenario, if she had been caught with the medicine she was using before we had passed the medical marijuana amendment, she would now no longer qualify for your original civil citation program that currently exists. This tool doesn't force the law enforcement officers to use it, but it would give them the opportunity to be compassionate and to provide leniency when there are cases like this where we have people who desperately need that type of medical attention and couldn't maybe afford the card or afford the doctor's prescription or whatever because the program is currently cumbersome and expensive for some patients. We are better than this in Leon County. I have faith in y'all to reach the right decision, and I ask you to please support Commissioner Dozier's motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The original motion on the floor.
We have a substitute motion that we have to dispose of first.
We'll dispense of the substitute motion first, which was option 1, correct? Yep. Made by Commissioner Lindley, seconded by Commissioner Deloge. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Hey, what's the vote? How was the motion set up, please?
Commissioner Proctor, can you hear me?
Commissioner Proctor, can you hear the chairman?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay.
We just voted on a substitute motion that would basically move option 1, which is to accept the status report and take no further action.
That motion.
Okay, I wanted to know how to vote, and I want to vote against that.
That motion failed 3-2 or 3-4. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay.
And now we're to the original motion, which was Commissioner Dozier's motion for option 2.
Mr. Chairman, as your parliamentarian, I have an interesting quandary that I need to pose to the commission. The commissioner appearing by telephone is, under our rules, not permitted to break a tie. So the substitute motion fails on a 3-3 vote, not on a 3-4 vote. All right, so now you have the original motion, which similar quandary might occur again. So I need to hear or see by a show of, well, I can't see Commissioner Proctor's hand, but it's at least, we need to be absolutely clear because just warning you, that if the original motion, which is now on the floor because the substitute motion failed 3-3, if the original motion passes 4-3 with Commissioner Proctor voting in the majority, it fails 3-3. So
Mr.
just
Chair,
to be aware of that.
On point, Commissioner.
I suppose this would be the will of the board in the room, and we might deadlock on a 3-3 vote with this as well.
Chairman, I challenge what the county attorney just said. I challenge that, and I need to know on what basis does my vote not count. I'm being nullified. I'm being allowed to talk in the county commission meeting. I'm able to discuss with the county commission, but he is doing something from a dark place and is going to now call for my vote to not count. I don't understand that, and I don't understand what rules he's talking about. And I do believe that I'm being, I think I've been misled that my participation in this meeting is official. But my participation is not official if I don't have a vote officially.
Mr. Chair, if I may continue, I think Commissioner Proctor may be able to hear me all right down here. I understand the rules as they exist. You can't be a tiebreaker. You can vote when you're on the phone, but you can't be a tiebreaker. So it is within the existing rules, and it just happens that we are at a tie for those who are in the room. Is that correct, Mr. County Attorney?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we have to move forward with the remaining.
You have to
motion.
dispose of the main motion that's on the floor.
If we deadlock again, can we make a motion? Can I make a motion to move this to the next meeting? Again, we may deadlock on that, but I'm just wondering about direction, or are we just done?
Well, the norm to that is you have to be on the prevailing side, which wouldn't exist.
There's not a prevailing side.
Okay.
But since this isn't a vote on the ordinance,
Yes, sir.
it's a vote on scheduling it.
Yes.
I don't believe that you'd be precluded from saying, I'd like this item to be re-agended on, I can't tell you what the date of the November meeting
Mr.
is.
Attorney, that's going to fail. That's going to fail too. I mean, it's 3-3. It is what it is at this point. We are where we
I
are.
want to see a copy of this right here. I need a copy of this right here. I think that you're being arbitrary and you're seeking a result that you choose. I should not be allowed to participate in a meeting, wasting my time from a conference I'm attending and told that I don't even count. I'm really offended by you. I'm checking up.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. We need to go ahead and dispense, I believe, officially with the original motion, correct? And confirm that it is done. That's okay.
Just so you all know, you have a written policy that's in your board policies that allows commissioners to attend and vote by phone. It says, however, the commissioner attending by telephone, his or her vote cannot break a tie. And that's what was occurring. And so it may occur again.
Mr. Attorney, I mean, just it looks like where we are right now is going to be a 3-3 again. So at this point, what are the options there? I mean, could we do we have to dispense of the motion? Can we just move on? I mean,
I believe we have to dispense of the original.
okay.
motion.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do that. The original motion obviously was option 2, correct? Which was accept the status report, schedule 2 public hearings. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, aye. Aye. It is deadlocked, correct?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the report.
I'm sorry, that one already.
I know it's already been made, but we got to do something. We got to
Well-
take some action, right? Or can we just move on to the next item?
You just
Can
move
we-
on to the next item. Now,
Mr.
again,
Chairman,
I
may
tried to. I think it is possible for a commissioner, whether you're on the prevailing or losing side, because there is no prevailing and losing side, to request that the matter be re-agended for your November meeting, which may or may not pass.
I respect if my colleagues on the other end of the dais do not support this following motion because you have the win now. But I do respectfully request a motion, or will make a motion to re-agenda this on November 12th. for consideration by the board in the same form that it is today. Thank you.
Okay, the motion's been made by Commissioner Dozier, seconded by Commissioner Minor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed by the same sign. Aye. It's deadlocked. So I believe we take no further action and move to the next agenda item.
Yes.
Am I correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your next item, Commissioners, seeks your full board appointments for the Canopy Roads Committee, the Council on the Culture and Arts, and the TDC, as reflected in options 1, 2, and 3.
Mr. Chairman, as a
Commissioner Lindley.
As a representative of the Canopy Roads Committee, I'd like to nominate or reappoint Tiffany McCaskill and Ryan Wetherill. Both have been good members and are willing to be reappointed.
Motion has been made for Tiffany McCaskill and Ryan Weatherall. It's been seconded by Commissioner Dozier. Those are the two eligible applicants. All those, or those are the two that have been nominated. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. Next up is our council, or COCA. That's easier to say.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Paul Lewis.
Mr. Chair, while I have the opportunity, I just want to recognize John Lawrence for the work he's put in on the COCA board. I think he's been there for it. When I say forever, I mean forever. I'm close to asking for a proclamation, but I don't even know if it's the right form. But he has really been just a rock on that board, and I couldn't let the opportunity go by without recognizing him.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Since Commissioner Maddox brought this up first, I actually had in mind to ask for a proclamation in recognition of Mr. Lawrence's work on COCA and for our community. He has had an incredible career, and I was able to serve with him. Thank you, Amanda, for nodding from COCA. Yes, he has been incredible. So, I'll second that. Why don't we present it jointly, if that's acceptable, Mr. Chair?
I'll second that and make note he is a North Carolina native and a North Carolina Central University Eagle, just for the record.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes.
You're back to the appointment.
Our hotelier.
I'll do the TDC.
All right. Go ahead.
So as your liaison for the TDC, we've got two very capable candidates that are asking to be reappointed. Mr. Patel, who's a hotelier, and Matt Thompson, who is the owner of Madison Social, both of whom have been very active and very helpful in my time on the TDC board. So I would recommend we reappoint the two of them to the terms on the TDC.
I'd second that.
All right. Motion's been made, seconded by Commissioner Lindley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion passes. All right, one more item. Correct?
Mm-hmm. One more agenda item, yeah.
Do we move on? Actually, you know what? We're going to get into an extended agenda item probably, so let's take a break, and then we will postpone the other agenda items during the public hearing. Meeting adjourned until 6 o'clock.